Welcome. It's your man God of Docs. Back on episode of the Audible. Yes, more and more NFL breakdown as we finish up with the AFC South today. Hope everybody's had a good day. I know that I have. Um, interesting. All right, so if you've been keeping up with the content this week, we've been focusing in on the AFC South. Started out the week with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we will end it off today with the Tennessee Titans. As I said at the beginning of the week, once you look at the rosters, look at the moves that were made in the offseason, Jacksonville has set themselves up to be the team of the present. How you doing, Dr. Nikki, Ms. Murph? How you doing? Jacksonville Jaguars have set themselves up to be my pick for division winner this year. Tennessee has been in the mix, has dominated this division over the last 5 years. Is it time to give up on the Tennessee Titans? Is it time to really move on? Is this division ready to move on from the stranglehold, the vice grip that the Tennessee Titans have had over this division over the last half decade? I know Tennessee fans will tell me no, but based on the moves that were made, the additions that were made, maybe not. We're going to talk about it more in depth. As always, remember to like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I'm here. Won't be here long. But let's kind of let's jump into it. Not much coming out as far as let me kind of get the training camp stuff out the way. Probably the biggest news of the day. You have Miami Dolphins cornerback Jalen Ramsey getting injured in training camp. And also quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, got carted off the field with a calf injury. How serious those injuries are, I'm not sure. Other than that, no real major news. The Jets have a planned visit from free agent running back Dalvin Cook. I wonder if they'll be able to bring him in. If they're able to bring him in, I'm glad I didn't do the AFC East already. If they're able to bring in Dalvin Cook, that kind of changes things as far as when I was talking about my tiers of teams, that kind of changes things that they're able to bring in Dalvin Cook. He's healthy and effective for the whole year. We'll see, but we're going to focus in on the Tennessee Titans. Now, typically when I start off these team previews, I'm mainly talking about the quarterback position. The most important position on the football field is the quarterback. And in a way, you could start the conversation off with Tennessee Titans, but the conversation pretty much ends and begins with Derrick Henry, superstar running back, is getting up there in age, had an okay year last year. Nothing to be ashamed of as far as his stats, a little bit down as far as stats, but still very productive last year. But his team ends and begins with Derrick Henry. And when you look at the pieces that are around him, you can make an argument for Tennessee possibly regaining the crown in the division and holding on to it just a little bit longer. But I can also make a case based on some of the injury history at certain positions, some of the questionable moves that were made in the offseason. I can make a case that Tennessee falls back into the pack of the division. I really could, but like I said, the story begins and ends with Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry will come out motivated this year. I do like the running back group that they do have behind him. Rookie running back Spears. Hassan Haskins, another young running back, able to kind of spell Derrick Henry, take some of the wear and tear off of him during the season. If you follow the Tennessee Titans last year, they kind of faltered at the end of the season. Started out pretty good. Injury bug this ravaged the team, and it ravaged the team in very key positions. And the team was just never the same. They limped down the stretch, had an opportunity to, get into the playoffs on the back end, but just wasn't able to put it together. Season ended in a dud. But we're going to look at the quarterback position. Like most teams, I start the conversation off there. Tennessee's a little bit different. But when I do look at the quarterback position in Tennessee, a lot of question marks. One is incumbent starter Ryan Tannehill fully healthy. Will he be able to make it through a full season? Ryan Tannehill has had injury concerns throughout his entire career. Tennessee is a much different team when he's at the quarterback, but you also have to think about he's getting up there in age. they did draft Will Levis, quarterback out of Kentucky. Did draft Will Levis. I believe in the second round. I believe in the second round they drafted him. Um, Came in with a lot of fanfare. I liked what I saw at Kentucky, but it did jump off the page at me. And it's probably why he dropped out of the first round. After being talked about in a lot of mock drafts as possibly being going as high as number 4 to the Indianapolis Colts, which didn't happen. But you draft Will Levis, who's not a spectacular talent at the position. So you have that, and then you have Malik Willis. What do you do with Malik Willis? I think physically, Malik Willis is a very different quarterback than what they already have in house. I don't think he's there as far as throwing the ball. He didn't really look that good last year in the cleanup duty, in the spot duty. When Tannehill went down, Malik Willis didn't look that good. They had Josh Dobbs at quarterback for a couple of games. I'm curious to see what Malik Willis kind of looks like at camp. I like the physical talent, but I don't know if he's able to be the prototypical NFL quarterback at this point. I'm not sure. Like I said, based off the sample size that we got last year, I understand his first time starting, a young guy, thrown into a very high pressure situation, and whether you consider Tennessee Titans a contender or not last year, the fact that you were fighting for a playoff spot, fighting for the division, and the pressure being on that young quarterback, maybe he wasn't ready for the moment. And with that being said, we don't know if Will Levis is going to be ready for the moment. Like I said, I liked what I saw at Kentucky. He was a bit turnover prone for my taste, considering that you don't have the physical gifts to that level to kind of make up for those mistakes. Quarterback position is going to be very interesting. Right now, Tannehill is kind of penciled in as the starter. Like I said, I'm not sure how long he holds up. Like I said, he has an injury history. And it's part of the reason why they went out and drafted Will Levis, because Tannehill has the injury history, and they didn't really like what they saw last year from Malik Willis. Not that I can blame Malik Willis, because they didn't really have any weapons on the outside to kind of help the young quarterback. You do have the running game, but when teams know that, hey, you can't pass the ball, we're able to stack the box up to kind of keep Derrick Henry in checks, and you don't have the skill set or the talent on the outside to really expose that, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. And they kind of addressed that with free agent signing, bringing in DeAndre Hopkins. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a huge help, not just for the quarterback, whoever the quarterback ends up being, but I think he's going to be a huge help as far as the maturation of second-year receiver Treylon Burks. I do like Burks' skill set. I liked him when he came out of college. Bringing in DeAndre Hopkins is the clear number 1, but I think Treylon Burks is going to get a lot of targets this year. I think he's going to really surprise a lot of people. If you didn't watch him in college, the quarterback situation left a lot to be desired last year, and he wasn't able to really show the talents that made him a high draft pick. But I do like I said, bringing in DeAndre Hopkins answers a lot of questions on the outside. DeAndre Hopkins, whether you think he's still got it, you think he's still lost stuff, still one of the best route runners in the NFL, still some of the best hands in the NFL. And I think he comes in a little bit motivated, playing in Arizona last year with an apathetic quarterback, a team that was going nowhere, just spinning their circles. I think he's going to come in knowing that, hey, if we have an opportunity to win a division, therefore we can get into the playoffs. DeAndre Hopkins has not found himself in a lot of playoff games, formerly playing with the Houston Texans and with the Arizona Cardinals. Then find himself in a lot of playoff games. He comes in motivated, and he's, like I said, he's a clear number 1. He may not be the Justin Jeffersons of the world, but still one of the best route runners. Still knows how to get open, still has some of the best hands, and he's going to be a huge help. You're not going to be able to load the box up with DeAndre Hopkins out there. I don't think nobody's defense is really that good to where you can have 8-9 in the box consistently to try to stop Derrick Henry and think you're going to be able to control DeAndre Hopkins. And I think that frees up Treylon Burks to have a better year than he had last year, playing in the number 2 spot. He's not facing the other team's best cornerback. Coverage is going to be typically rolled a little bit more towards D-Hop. So I think Treylon Burks is going to have a breakout year. The tight end position, I like Okonkwo, but when you really look at Tennessee's offense, I'm just gonna be honest with you. When you really look at Tennessee's offense, it's Derrick Henry or bust. Derrick Henry or bust. I mean, I like the receiver core, but the quarterback situation is kind of iffy. Outside of Traylon Burks and D Hop, I don't really like the guys that they have on the depth chart at wide receiver. None of these guys jump off the page at me. None of these guys um, give me any confidence that they're going to be able to help this offense be a lot more explosive. Last year, offense was middle of the road as far as like scoring points. It's a run heavy team. Then you didn't have your quarterback, and you was really dependent on the run because Malik Willis didn't look that good. I'm just gonna be honest with you. You may be a Willis fan. I'm not saying I'm not, but based off the sample size, you left a lot to be desired. And that's the reason why they drafted Will Levis, because he was there. When you look at the offensive line, I do like first round pick Peter Skoronski. I do like him. Um, Offensive line for the most part is, it's okay. More of a run blocking style offensive line, not necessarily that great as far as pass protection. But the style that they run is Derrick Henry or bust. You need guys up front. You need hog models. You need a much larger offensive line than say a Kansas City or Cincinnati, because you're dependent on run blocking, opening up holes for Derrick Henry. I mean, the offensive line is okay. Question marks I have for this team really on the defensive side of the ball. They had to make some sacrifices to a lot of talent that they have last year. Had to do some, cost cutting measures. So they had to bring in a lot of guys that, quite frankly, are just bodies. I do like Jeffrey Simmons at defensive tackle. I think when healthy, he's a force in the middle. I do like Harold Landry on the outside. But outside of that, I mean, it's not much to really, like or to really get excited about when we're talking about the front seven for Tennessee. It just doesn't. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It's like a middle of the pack type defense. What has always helped Tennessee's defense in the Derrick Henry era is the fact that you had Derrick Henry, playing clock control, controlling the clock, keeping you off the field, keeping you fresh. I think they're going to miss Bud Dupree on the outside opposite of Landry, but I think Landry is a good enough player. He's still going to kind of get his, but the question is, where does your pass rush come from? I'm just going to be honest. It's leaving a lot to be desired. Middle linebacker position. I mean, the guys are okay. I mean, he's got some athletes there, but nothing to really get excited about. In Tennessee as a whole, I mean, when you look at the roster, it leaves a lot to be desired, and that's why when I look at the roster, I look at the change that they made, the guys they brought in for draft, the guys they let go, the guys they replaced them with in free agency. It's not giving me good vibes that this team is going to reclaim their position at the top and win the AFC South next year. It just doesn't. It's a when you really look at the roster, it's really borderline trash. Because this team is not really. Tennessee is finding themselves in that middle ground that you really don't want to be as an NFL franchise. You either want to be, I know every team wants to be a championship contender, but some teams are actually championship contenders. Tennessee finds himself in that middle ground. We're a 500-ish team. Like we can, if we get in the playoffs, it's not a surprise, but no one's picking us to win the AFC. We're just not that explosive at any one thing. And I'm not one of those guys to devalue the running back position, but you need quarterback play to complement that. You need quarterback play to complement that, especially if you're talking about playing winning football in January and February. It's just, when I look at Tennessee's roster, it just doesn't give me that vibe that these guys are ready for prime time. These guys are ready to go. And Tennessee, depending on what happens in the offseason next year, I mean, they could find themselves in the same boat as Houston and Indianapolis, looking at a rebuild. I mean, It's not a lot of promising young talent on this team. They got a couple guys that I could say, hey, I like them guys going forward. But for the most part, I mean, 80%, 85% of the team, can be replaced. None of these guys will stand out. None of these guys are, and the only reason I'm picking them to possibly finish second in the division, um, is because the head coach and the fact that they probably won't be starting a rookie quarterback. I don't think Will Levis is going to beat out Tannehill, especially if Tannehill is healthy. I don't see Levis beating him out for the position. Therefore, I give Tannehill a slight edge going into the season over C.J. Stroud and possibly Anthony Richardson, just because they're rookies. But I think Indianapolis is set up a whole lot better for the future. I like the moves that Houston has made. I talked about it yesterday. I can see that team winning 7 to 8 games. Tennessee they're giving me 9 and 8, maybe 10 and 7. I don't see this team being at the forefront. Oh, we are focused on Tennessee. Tennessee. When I looked at the roster, I looked at the moves that they made as far as free agency. I was like, okay, that was a cool move. But they had to cut a lot of fat. They had to cut a lot of fat, and the guys that they brought in, these guys are not moving the needle for me. And see how the AFC is kind of set up, and how it's going to be kind of set up for like the next at least half a decade. You need to go big or go home. You can't think we're going to be making middle of the pack type moves when you have the Buffaloes of the world, you have the Jets of the world, you have the Dolphins of the world. Kansas City's not going anywhere. Cincinnati's not going anywhere. I think Pittsburgh is going to be a better team this year. Baltimore is going to be a better team. You can't be making middle of the pack type moves. And I understand you had to do a lot of cap saving moves. Derrick Henry, might be out of here before the season ends. It was talks of the team possibly looking to try to trade him. If not, I can see Derrick Henry. If he doesn't take a restructured deal to take less money, I can see Derrick Henry probably being like, this team is like middle of the pack, and middle of the pack. Well, how you looking like a top contender in the NFC, but the AFC, man, they just keep getting better and better and better. I didn't even talk about the Chargers out there. I think Denver is going to be much better with Sean Payton at head coach. So Tennessee, to me, the second place, nothing to be ashamed of. I think they have a winning year. I'm guessing about 9 and 8 or 10 and 7. Other than that, go D Hop. I like D Hop. Going to Tennessee is just when you look at the talent, overall for the team, it just doesn't. D Hop, I get it, man. I get it. You had to kind of choose between getting paid and being in a winning situation. That's probably the best deal he could possibly get. I know it was talk of New England looking at him, but I mean that's another team that's kind of like you're stuck in the water right now. But yeah, Tennessee 10 and 7 at best. If they win the division, like I said, I wouldn't be shocked because they do have the veteran experience, have the head coach in place, have the system in place, not really bringing in a lot of new guys at very key positions. The team had to kind of save some money. I think they're going to miss some of those guys that they let go, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We're talking about Buddy Dupree, talking about David Long. I think they're going to miss some of those guys on that side of the ball. But we'll see. They still have to go out there and play the games. I'm looking at the progression of Treylon Burks is one of the big stories for this upcoming season. And how far along is Will Levis and Malik Willis? Because Tannehill can't play forever. And I mean, you drafted these guys with the thought that they may be able to supplement Tannehill. And let's keep it a buck. Tannehill is not a Super Bowl winning quarterback. So if you're a Tennessee fan out there and I said that and I hurt your feelings, oh well. Tomorrow we'll be back. Do like the weekly wrap up. And I'll be looking forward to next week. Next week we'll be doing NFC South. Very, very excited to kind of get that started. I may be starting out the week. Probably starting out the week with Washington. I think it's one of the more intriguing teams in that division. And people need to get to know who they are. So I'm a start off the week next week with Washington and kind of go through the NFC East, and then we'll be back the week after with the AFC East. And I think that's how I'm going to kind of do it: AFC, NFC, AFC, NFC. Kind of keep it simplified for me. But yeah, Tennessee. If you have Tennessee going to the Super Bowl, you obviously own that narcotic. But anyway, appreciate everybody coming in as always. If I haven't got to your team, stay tuned. We're gonna get to them. If I've already done your team, check the channel out. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. And leave you with the phrase that pays over here. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but every time you learn. And I'm out.